true paranormal story.
Nobody's ever gonna believe this. What the heck did I just see? Started seeing ghosts when I was only 8 years old. I saw that boy disappear.
This isn't real. Welcome to the Raker'z Dozen. Welcome to the Raker'z Dozen, a true paranormal story podcast. You know, I was thinking the other day about one of the creepiest paranormal experiences I had while living in my apartment. So I thought I'd share it and a bonus story. There was so much negative energy from the relationship I was in at the time. I was dealing with depression and just trying to figure it out. It always felt like the darker place I was in, the more active things would become. Have you guys ever noticed that? I decided I needed a roommate to help me keep my apartment. And so began years of paranormal experiences with my new roommate, who was none other than my childhood buddy, whose house was haunted on La Docena Lane. Hope you guys are ready for this. Now let's get into it. Growing up, I used to experience a lot of paranormal activity in my buddy's home. For years, I saw spirits who actively messed with me all the time. But my buddy never believed my stories. He'd always say I was high or something, which possibly true. The same buddy whose house was haunted on La Docena Lane. You know, the boy in red, the woman in white, the one in black. Yeah, those stories. Well, the saga continues. And this story is one of the stories when we used to live together in Fullerton, California. So now we're grown up and I'm living in my apartment alone after me and my girlfriend broke up. I believe it was around 2012 and I was in my early 30s. And one day I asked my buddy if he wanted to grab a beer, and so he says sure. So we meet at my favorite Mexican restaurant called Super Mex. The chimichangas and Tampico wings are amazing. Oh, delicious. As we started catching up, I let him know I'm debating whether to move back home or maybe look for a roommate. A few beers later, I started thinking, maybe he should move in. I found out there's a 2-bedroom apartment opening next month and it's available. So I just tossed the idea out there, not sure what he'd say. And after a couple more sips of beer, he mentioned, I've been wanting to move into my own place. And since we've known each other almost our whole lives, it kind of makes sense. So I told him just to sleep on it and let me know tomorrow. And then we just moved on to other crap that was going on in our lives and just left it at that. The next day, my buddy told me he thought about it and wants to move into the 2-bedroom apartment next month. And so we talked to the property management, signed the lease, and the next month, we moved in together. The first night he didn't sleep there. I don't remember why, and honestly, it doesn't even matter. All I know is that first night in the apartment felt strange. It had a weird vibe to it. And I felt a little uneasy. I mean, I'm used to feeling paranormal things, but this was different. So the next day around 7 p.m., he dropped by the apartment after work. We chatted a little, drank a few beers, watched a Laker game. And after the game, my buddy went to his room and started unpacking. I watched TV for a little longer, but was already tired from the move. I ended up going to my room and just relaxed for a while. It was about 12:30 a.m. and I started falling asleep. You know, when you start nodding off, but you leave the TV on? I then heard 3 slow knocks on my door. Almost like when someone is knocking, but doing it gently as to not wake someone up. I figured something was going on with my buddy, so I got up and opened my door. Except, no one was there. The apartment was completely dark. But down the short hall, I could hear the faint sound of his TV, and I could see the TV light coming through the bottom of his door. So I figured he was up. For a moment, I thought about knocking on his door and asking him if everything is okay. Then I was tired. I just said, to hell with it, I'm going to bed. So I closed the door and started walking back to my bed when I heard 5 extremely aggressive pounds on my door. I'm talking about knocking so hard on my door that I thought it was the police or something. And for a split second, I was startled and shocked. And then I got pissed. Who the hell pounds on someone's door like that at 12:30 in the morning? So I raced to open the door, and just as I'm opening it, my buddy whips his door open at the exact same time. We both look at each other shocked, and at the same time we say, "Why the hell are you pounding on my door?"
Why the fuck are you knocking on my door so hard?
And then I say, "I didn't knock on your door. You knocked on mine." And my buddy responds,
I didn't knock on your door. You were the one knocking on mine.
and then we both stand there for a few moments. And then it hits me. And I say out loud, "This is just the beginning." And my buddy asks,
The beginning of what?
I say it's the beginning of them making their presence felt, making their presence felt, making their presence felt. What could possibly have gone wrong living with my buddy? If you've been following the earlier episodes, I'm sure you already figured out this would happen. Or at least I figured it would. It was just a crazy time in my life where I couldn't believe how many things started happening regularly. How many things were happening all the time. I just remember the look of fear in my buddy's face when we both realized what just happened with the knocking. I'm sure he saw the fear in mine as well. And with that, we'll jump into another story from the same apartment on Highland Avenue in Fullerton, California. Story number 2. Okay, so here's another story from the apartments off Highland while living with my buddy. We both knew after the first night he stayed there, some shit was about to go down. I just knew the energy in the apartment was ramping up, and it was only a matter of time before things started happening. And I was right. After we heard pounding on the doors the first night my buddy moved in, we talked about it. I let him know the other apartment I lived in within the same complex, we experienced some weird things when living with my girlfriend. So it wouldn't surprise me if we start to experience things here. My buddy almost disregarded what I said. Not that he didn't believe me, it felt more like he just didn't want to hear it. For so many years, he thought I made up all the stories about the house he grew up in. Maybe he didn't want to acknowledge those stories were real. Things stayed calm for a few months, and although the apartment had a weird energy to it, nothing noticeable happened. And one day I was home alone and didn't have my son with me. It was in the middle of the week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. I honestly have no idea where my buddy was, but I'm pretty sure he was at work that morning. I made some breakfast and watched the morning news for like an hour. And then I decided to get ready to go run some errands. And so I jumped in the shower. As soon as I started washing my hair and closed my eyes, I hear something. It was very faint. And at first I wasn't too sure since I was rinsing my hair and the water was hitting me in the face, but it was loud enough to get my attention. I thought maybe I left the living room TV on or something, and even figured maybe it's even my downstairs neighbors. Those guys were loud and always had something going on. But I really tried to focus on what sounded like singing. I froze in my tracks. Wait, that singing sounds like a little girl. And for a brief moment, I remembered the downstairs neighbor did have a daughter, and I think she was about 8 or 9. But I immediately started realizing if it was downstairs, it would sound muffled. And this sounds clear. So I just kept rinsing off my hair, but now the singing is getting louder. And it sounds like it's coming from inside the bathroom. like on the other side of the shower curtain. I stop and listen for a few seconds. It's definitely a child singing, but it sounds like it's right next to me and it's getting louder. So I quickly turn off the shower and stood still. The singing stopped. I stood there for about 20 seconds just listening, and I didn't hear anything. No TV playing, no child singing, nothing. So now I'm starting to get the feeling that something isn't right, and that all too familiar rapid heart rate kicked in. Something is wrong. I turn the shower back on and immediately hear the singing again. And now I know it's coming from inside my bathroom. You ever see that moment in a horror film where they're about to quickly swat the shower curtains open, hoping to catch whatever's there? That's exactly what I knew I had to do. So I took a deep breath and opened the shower curtain quickly and yelled, "Who's there? Who's there? Who's there?" Nothing. And now I'm getting a little nervous. I've seen apparitions, but I've never heard one singing and interacting with me. This put the scare factor to like an 8 out of 10 for me. I quickly finished the shower and went into the room. I got ready and sat on the bed for about 10 minutes just hoping I'd hear the singing coming from downstairs or something, so I could laugh at myself for overreacting, but that didn't happen. I finally got up and grabbed my keys to head out, and just before I closed the front door, I softly said, "Fuck, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening." I'm not really sure what else to say after hearing the girl singing in the shower. It scared the shit out of me. I'm not joking. This experience really rattled me. And I think most experiences with children apparitions are deeply unsettling to me. But good thing for me, that was the first and only time I heard the girl singing in the shower. For now. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Raker'z Dozen, a true paranormal story podcast. Which story was your favorite? Let me know by leaving a comment. For me, I have to say the Who's Knocking story still leaves me feeling unsettled. And don't forget, if you have a story that you'd like to share, please email me at therakersdozen@gmail.com. If you're enjoying these stories, please make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, leave a review, so more people who love the paranormal can find the show. I appreciate you. And thanks for taking a trip down this paranormal plane.